Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest show ever to broadcast in a pixeled reality. I am your host, Hughe Jasole, and I welcome you tonight as we cross the deep desert, as we work in the fields and the sands. I want to share with you some of the truths that I have learned over my time here on Flat Arrakis. The first being simple, possibly the most simple. The Round Arrakis theorists. There's been a theory for a long time now that Arrakis is round. And although I understand it, the science has not been conclusive on certain areas. I can tell you that they keep saying this planet is round because the new skybox curvature rendering kicked in after the last patch. That's not physics, that's simple propaganda. The Zionyx Collective wants you to believe that the sun sets behind the dunes, not into the render fog. Wake up, sleepers. Let me hit you with a couple of pieces of information here. Number one, the curve is just a 1.5 megabyte shader file. They think the patch is pure reality. They claim it's for immersion, but my compass still points directly to dev headquarters. Couple of things I've noticed while I've spent time on Flat Arrakis. First and foremost, when I fly out of the Haga Basin, I don't have to fly all the way around and come out in the bottom. I just fly like this over to here. That's not round. That's clearly flat. Say I want to take a trip outside of the deep desert. What happens? Do I fly out of the deep desert and find a giant ball of gas and flame in the sky? No, I end up in a weird 2D world where I can fly around and I have to find water deposits and fuel. That's not a round world. This world is and always has been flat. Hashtag Flat Arrakis is not a conspiracy theory. It's simple fact. Unfortunately, it may be fact that you don't like to understand or find out. But the truth is, facts don't lie. And it doesn't fit the globalist agenda. It does. I do. I am. Oh. So I've talked a couple of times about this, and frankly, it's become an area of true discussion now. The concept of the worm. Now, some of you may know that I'm a part of a guild called Sandworms Don't Exist. And that's not just a quirky name. Sandworms do not exist here on Flat Arrakis. Now, I challenge you. We've had this discussion numerous times. These worms don't exist. See, we were just talking about this. I was just talking about this. Can't say gay? What is this, Florida? Jesus. So yes, let's get back to the topic at hand. Sandworms do not exist. I can go into this in greater detail, but sandworms are not native to our Flat Arrakis. The whole reason why Flat Arrakis is desert is because Shai-Hulud is sucking the literal life water out of Flat Arrakis. That's by design. The Round Arrakis conspiracists are also the same exact elitists and globalists that would try and tell you that a sandworm is natural to our universe. But the truth of the matter is they know it's not because they planted it here. They planted the sandworms here on Flat Arrakis. Look back through the lore. You can see the worm itself is not native. Now you'll ask me, I've been eaten by a sandworm, Hugh. Hugh, I have been eaten many times. I know that sandworms exist, and I say to you, are you sure that you got eaten by a sandworm? Were you in the sand, and then a massive thing came out of the sand, may have looked like a worm, may have had a lot of teeth, grabbed you up, and then what happened? Did you turn up naked in a government facility with your tool in your hand? Because that's what happens to me. And let me tell you something. When I show up naked in a government facility with my tool in my hand, I can tell you for certain I didn't do anything. That's the government that caused that problem. The Shai-Hulud is a myth. It's a hologram in the sands caused by a mixture of gases that are built up from Sandtrouts. Now, we've spoken about Sandtrouts in the past, but let me explain what I mean by Sandtrouts. The Shai-Hulud start off as a tiny grub-like trout creature, and when the Shai-Hulud becomes aggressive enough and strong enough, it can take off and grow and move. The problem with the Shai-Hulud and the problem with the Sandtrouts themselves is our Zionyx consortium has been putting spice in the moisture rations, forcing the Sandtrouts to be gay. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'll put up on here the biggest rainbow because I am an ally, but my point is I don't want them forcing the Sandtrouts to be gay. What two Sandtrouts do in the company of the sands, that's in their own business. But when they start forcing thousands of Sandtrouts into homosexual relationships, when they know what happens is it causes them to become more aggressive. It causes them to migrate and multiply. That's manipulation. That's environmental terrorism. And I, for one, don't stand for that. Now we can talk about the moisture rations a little bit more because I don't really know how many of you know exactly what's going on and how clued in you are, how often you've been watching Spice Wars. So let me clue you in to what's been going on in Spice Wars so far. What I, Hughe Jasole, your greatest showman, has found out in the sands of the Flat Arrakis. I've found that the so-called hydration rebalance was supposed to make survival fairer. But listen, the moisture rations have been infused for years with low-grade synthetic spice. It keeps you docile, but it angers the Sandtrouts. And the Sandtrouts begin to multiply and have angry gay sex. It's terrible what's happening to them. If you want to have nice sex, that's fine. I mean, I'm not telling you not to, but it's just angry, sandy, non-moisture-ridden sex. Nobody wants that. I'm not talking about regardless of where you sit in the spectrum. They say it's electrolyte balancing. I say it's behavioral tuning. But that being said, I believe, as of right now, we should take a look at our options for hydration, starting with Dubby. Dubby hydration is number one in electrolytes. We were just talking about electrolytes balancing. Well, I will tell you this. There is nothing more balanced electrolyte-wise than Dubby. Made from coffee fruit extract, Dubby brings you jitterless energy without the crash. Dubby. Go to dubby.gg. Put in hashtag booties for 10% off all purchases. Now let's get back to the hydration rebalancing. You know, maybe if they fed those Sandtrouts some Dubby, they'd calm them down a little bit. Now we know something about Chapter 3. We know that there are some areas of Chapter 3 that are a little bit mysterious. They told us this chapter is about optimization, but every performance fix removes one more shadow. Why? Because the Zionyx devs are harvesting ambient data. From the sand reflections, they can see our ambient movements. They track us on the way in, they track us on the way out. Every movement we make sends data from the sand reflection. Every frame you render is ping back to their servers saying, "Here I am. This is who I am." The moment they added bloom lighting, I lost 3 FPS for privacy. You think those new particles are dust? That's nanite telemetry, my friends. So go into your settings, turn off the shadows, shine your own light on the truth here in Flat Arrakis.